This is an emergency 7-round team mock draft. The Seattle Seahawks have been one of the most active teams early on in this season. They started off by trading quarterback Geno Smith, to the surprise of many, to the Las Vegas Raiders in exchange for the number 92 overall pick, and they have continued that aggressiveness, trading DK Metcalf to the Pittsburgh Steelers in exchange for pick number 52. They now have 5 picks inside the top 100, and this is a team that I think has a real opportunity to load up in this draft class. What players make the most sense to Seattle, and how can they improve this roster in this draft? That's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. We did a 7-round Seahawks mock draft just last week, but a lot has changed since then. So this is a 2.0 version after the moves. Now, a bit of a disclaimer, I am moving forward with this mock draft with the thought process that they will be signing a veteran quarterback. Whether that's a Sam Darnold, a Justin Fields, or an Aaron Rodgers, I expect Seattle is going to go with a veteran quarterback rather than drafting one early. I'm going to get that out of the way now, just in case people ask why I'm not drafting a quarterback super highly. That's my thought process going into it. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon page, which I will leave linked down in the description below. It's only $5 a month. You guys will get full access to my draft guide, scouting reports, combine numbers, all of the information you guys need for this draft. But let's go ahead and kick this off with the Seattle Seahawks at pick number 18. On the clock here at pick 18, there are a couple of players that have caught my eye as potential fits for this team. Obviously, after trading DK Metcalf, you're going to have a hole at the receiver position. I like Matthew Golden a ton as a field stretcher. He's an incredible route runner. He knows how to separate, and I think he can stretch the field. He had one of the fastest 40s of any player at the combine, ran a 4.29. I think he would make a lot of sense as a field stretcher for this team, a great complement to Jackson Smith-Njigba. But I feel like we can go get a receiver down the board. I'd love to land Jaden Higgins or Elic Ayomanor, so I'm going to hold off on receiver. The interior of the offensive line has been a major concern for the Seattle Seahawks for the last couple of seasons. They lost to Damian Lewis in free agency last year. Christian Haynes did not necessarily have the rookie season that I think most Seattle fans were anticipating, and they've got a lot of holes on the interior of their offensive line. If you do go out and get Sam Darnold, which it seems like it's a very realistic possibility, you've got to make sure that there's not a lot of interior pressure, because that's where Darnold really struggles. And Gray Zabel, to me, is the perfect fit. He is a left tackle prospect from North Dakota State that is going to convert to guard at the next level. He's a really fun one, though. He's 6'5", 316 pounds, 32.25-inch arms. Just a really solid, athletic offensive lineman that does a lot of things you want to see. Absolutely popped off at the Senior Bowl. He's a good athlete that can move in space. He's got good hands as a blocker. Tons of experience. I mean, look at this. He has over almost 1,900 snaps over the last 2 seasons of college football. He's great in the run game, and he's really good as a pass blocker as well. He's a really versatile offensive lineman that I think is going to be able to play all over in this scheme, and they want to run wide zone. They want to get out in space. I think Gray Zabel gives you the opportunity to do that in zone. So I'm going to go with Gray Zabel here. I've gone safety the last time I did a mock for him. I'm going to hold off on this, and I'm going to go with Gray Zabel here at pick number 18. Here at pick number 50, I think it's an absolute no-brainer here what we're going to be doing. Elic Ayomanor is on the board. I'm running the card in if he's on the board here at 50. He's one of the more underappreciated receivers in this draft class. 6'1", 206 pounds, 10-inch hands. He's just got big hands, and 32 and 3/8-inch arms. He's just got a really large frame for the wide receiver position, and I think he's way more athletic than you would expect. His long speed is really solid. He has the ability to win deep. He's quick when breaking out of his routes, and his hands are phenomenal. This is a guy who seemingly caught everything that was thrown his way. I'm trying to see. He had 6 drops this past season, which was a career high for him. But going back to his 2023 year, he was incredible that year. Go back and watch his game against Colorado, where he absolutely torched Travis Hunter in that game. He's got a great frame. He's good in contested catch situations. I think he knows how to separate. I think really the biggest concerns you're going to have with him is the drops. I do think that was an area this past year that it's slightly concerning. And I think he is very vertical out of his stance. He runs a very simple route tree, does not explode with his lower body off the line of scrimmage. So that's going to have to get better for him. But as a compliment to Jackson Smith-Njigba and a true boundary receiver, I have to take Ayomanor here. I can't afford to wait on a receiver in this class that isn't the strongest. We'll probably take another receiver in this class, but I am 100% going to be taking Elic Ayomanor here at pick number 50. Here at pick 53, I want to go get another pass rusher for this Seahawks front. Uchenna Nwosu has battled some injuries, and there's a little bit of concern there with his long-term health. And while Boye Mafe has been great, I do think you need some more consistency up front. They were able to bring back Jarran Reed. You expect a big leap from Byron Murphy. The interior looks pretty strong, but I do believe this team needs a true outside linebacker pass rusher. And I'm between Kyle Kennard and Braden Swinson. I think both of these guys have some really good upside, but I am going to go with Kennard ultimately. I'm a big fan of Kennard. I've got him slightly higher on the big board than Swinson. He just is coming off a really productive season for South Carolina. Really good length off the edge, has 33 and 3/8 inch arms. He's got great length, great bend, which I thought was really intriguing for him. And he just has so many different pass rush moves. He's got active hands, knows how to get into the backfield. This is a guy that as a true pass rusher is going to be fantastic. Quick first step off the line of scrimmage, but I wouldn't say he is the fastest player in the world. And I will say his run defense needs some improvement. But he's an older player that has a lot of experience. He's been very productive for one of the best defenses in the country. And I think Kennard is a really good player. So I love what he brings to this team as another pass rusher opposite of Boye Mafe. So I'm going to take Kyle Kennard here at pick 53. We mentioned it earlier in the video, but I am moving forward with the intention that they get a veteran quarterback. But if Jalen Milroe's on the board here at 82, he has to be worth the investment. I just don't see a world where if he's on the board here, you don't take that chance. He's one of the most athletic quarterbacks we have ever seen come through the draft process. And after the combine, his hands were 9 and 3/8 inches. That gives me a little bit more encouragement about drafting Milroe as a prospect. Milroe is one of the most polarizing quarterbacks of the last few years because we know how elite of a runner he is. I want to say he had almost 20 touchdowns on the ground this past season. Well, let's take a look here. I mean, just an unbelievable rushing quarterback. And what makes him so unique, his arm is phenomenal. A 93.1 deep passing grade. When he's not pressured, he does well. He's an interesting one because I think if he falls into the right system, if a team drafts him with the intention of sitting him for a couple of years, letting him develop, working on his accuracy, working on his fundamentals, then Jalen Milroe could be a really good starting quarterback in the league. I think Seattle is the right situation for that. They've got a good offensive coordinator in Clint Kubiak that I think runs a scheme that would be favorable for Jalen Milroe. And if you're signing a Sam Darnold or an Aaron Rodgers, you have now a security blanket if Milroe is to get hurt, and you have a guy that can be a mentor for him in the locker room. I'm a fan of this fit for Jalen Milroe. I think it makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to take a chance here, take a chance on a quarterback that has so much upside. He's very raw, but I think the upside is through the roof if he can be developed properly. I'm going to take a chance on Jalen Milroe here at pick number 82. Here at pick number 92, I'm going to be looking for a safety for this Seahawks team. We went with Nicky Manwari in the first round of my first mock draft, but I do think that this is a team that needs some help on the back end. Kobe Bryant was solid in his role, but I wouldn't say he is a long-term starting safety option. I'm looking for a guy that can be that roaming free safety that's got really good ball skills, and that player to me here is Billy Bowman from Oklahoma. One of the more slept on, I'd say, safeties in the class. He's very all or nothing. I think that's the best way to describe it. He's 5'10", 198, a smaller player. But man, this guy, when the ball is in the air, is an absolute freak show. He's got some incredible ball skills. I mean, this guy seems to be involved in just about every single play. Had multiple interceptions this past season, multiple interceptions just a year ago. He's really athletic, is good in coverage, can mirror routes. But like I said, he's very all or nothing. He's either going to get an interception or he's going to give up a touchdown, it seems like. But I think he's in a right situation to develop. We know Mike Macdonald has these types of safeties on his roster that he likes to deploy, and I think he is a really solid player. He does need to improve as a tackler, though. A 23.1% missed tackle rate. He leads with his head a lot. It's not going to fly at the NFL level. He needs to be more consistent with his tackling technique, and if he can do that, I think he can be a good player. I think this is a guy that is probably going to sneak into the top 100, especially after he had a really good combine where he ran a 4.42. He's really athletic, really quick, and I think he makes a lot of sense for this team. So I'm going to take Billy Bowman here at pick number 92. Here at pick 137, I'm going to go back into the receiver market. I think this is a receiving core that I like. Jake Bobo, friend of the show. I don't know if that you feel great about him as your number 3 receiver going into the year. I think you could go out and get a more athletic player that can be a bit of a burner. I like Ayomanor. He's more of the possession guy. JSN is more of the slot. I really like the idea of drafting Tai Felton, the receiver from Maryland. He's coming off a very productive season where he was incredible this past year for Maryland. Seemed like he was one of the most reliable weapons in the entire country. Had over 1,100 yards, had 9 touchdowns. The drops, they're going to be a concern. He had 8 drops this past season, but he's a really fun prospect that I think could be a great gadget player. He's got really solid route running. He's got a smart understanding of where to settle in zone coverage. He's great after the catch. He knows how to make guys miss in the open field. And I think he's going to be a dynamic player. You can get him involved in bubble screens or get him involved in different plays out of the backfield. And I think he's going to make plays happen. Now, I wouldn't say he's the most physical receiver in the world. He's 6 foot, 186. He had a 38% contested catch rate. Not amazing. His long speed is not amazing, but he still ran a 4.37. I will say the lack of production outside of 2024 is a valid concern. He didn't have a very productive year outside of this, but I do think he can be an impactful receiver in the NFL. I think his best football is still ahead of him. I've got a 4th round grade on him. He's on the board here. I'm going to take him here with our 4th round pick. Here at pick 173, we're going to double dip on the offensive line again. The interior has been such a big concern, and I think getting a starting center could be nice. Oluwatimi was fine last year, but I like Jake Majors and what he can bring to the table. This is a guy that has so much experience along the offensive line, had over 1,000 snaps this past year, had an 85.4 pass blocking grade, which I think is fantastic, and is one of the more reliable offensive linemen in the draft class. Allowed just 15 pressures, 0 sacks this past year. And I think he is a guy that brings a ton of experience, a ton of upside, and could be a nice, steady center for you. He's been very productive for Texas. He's a very heady player. He knows how to chip block and has good blitz recognition. But he's a nice mover in the open field, has over 2,700 snaps of experience, and I think he knows how to counter pass rush moves. He's not the most impressive athlete in the world, but he's very good in the run game. He's got some really solid power at times. I think he's going to be a starting caliber center. And here in the 5th round, if you can get that type of player to improve the up front of your offensive line, I think you have to do it. If you come away with this draft getting Gray Zabel and Jake Majors along the offensive line, that is 2 out of your 5 offensive line spots that I would feel pretty good about with Charles Cross and hoping Abe Lucas can stay healthy. I think the interior gets so much stronger with those 2 moves. So I'm going to take Jake Majors here at pick number, what pick is this? At pick number 173. Here at pick number 186, I want to go out and get another linebacker. I know this team was able to bring back Ernest Jones. I really like Tyrese Knight from last year, but I think you need an insurance policy in the linebacker room and a little bit more speed there. And I really like Smael Mondon as a potential fit here. He reminds me a lot of Isaiah Simmons and just an absolutely really versatile player. He ran a 4.58 with a 1.52 split. He's just a phenomenal athlete. He moves well, has great length for the position. I think he's going to be a really good blitzing linebacker at the next level. He's going to come downhill. He's going to make plays in the backfield. But he also has the ability to stick with tight ends in coverage, with running backs in coverage. I absolutely love that. He is 229 pounds, so he is pretty small for the linebacker position. I think missed tackles have been a concern with him throughout his career. He improved it this past year, but going back throughout his collegiate career, he has struggled to wrap up consistently, and he's not a very powerful player. I thought he really struggled to shed blockers at times, but I've got a 5th round grade on him. I think this is a really good spot for him to land at with a good defensive coordinator that I think can get the best out of him. So I'm going to take Smael Mondon here with our 5th round pick. Here at pick number 212, I think getting some more tight end depth could be a potential move Seattle should look to make. Noah Fant has been pretty disappointing in his NFL career, and while A.J. Barner showed some flashes down the stretch, I still think that they could look to improve, and I like Moliki Matevau out of UCLA as a potential option for this team. His production is not incredible. You're not going to look at the stat sheet and be like, oh my gosh, he's incredible, but he's 6'5", 265 pounds. He's got really reliable hands across the middle of the field. He has versatility to play both in line and in the slot, which I absolutely love to see. And I think he's a good blocker. If you have him as a blocker in space, he's going to be an impactful player. He's not the greatest athlete in the world. He ran a 4.81. He's not super explosive. He's pretty lumbering, heavy on his feet at times, and he hasn't been super productive throughout his collegiate career. But if you can get him in the 6th round, 7th round range, develop him behind some of the other tight ends you have, I think it could be worth an investment. A.J. Barner had a pretty bad injury. You had Noah Fant, who, like I said, has just not been super productive for this team. I don't hate going out and adding another tight end to the roster, so I'm going to take Matevau here at pick number 212. With our final pick here at 236, I'm going to keep things realistic. Ty Robinson's not going to be on the board here after the combine he just had. There's some interesting defensive linemen here, though, that I really like as potential fits. Ultimately, though, I'm going to go with another friend of the show here in Louisville's Thor Griffith. This is a guy that transferred over from, I believe it was Harvard, if I'm not mistaken, and put up really solid numbers for Louisville this past season. He's a really solid player, 6'2", 305 pounds, great size, really strong player that has a good bull rush, great run defender that has had exceptional grades throughout his career, and he's a better athlete than he gets credit for. Disengaging with blockers can be up and down. He had some poor change of direction, but I like his game a lot. I think he's a guy that is going to be a steady defensive lineman throughout his career, and if you can get him in the 7th round, I'd see a world where you could feel confident in making that investment. He could be a nice rotational piece for you. And you've had some injuries there. So I like Thor Griffith to round out this draft at 236. And that's going to do it for our 7-round draft. Let's see the grade that they end up giving us. I'm very curious. That's a pretty tough grading scale at times with PFF, but I think we did a good job. We hit all the needs. I love the pickup that we were able to get down the board I love the Gray Zabel pick. I love Jalen Milroe falling to us, and then all of these picks, which I don't understand. We get a C- for this class, but I'd love to hear from you guys. What do you guys think? Do you like the mock draft? Do you not like it? Would love to hear from you guys, Seahawks fans. Would you be happy if the draft turned out like this? Leave a like, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.